All right, y'all, in this video, we'll be going over hinge point training for those who are having low back, mid back, upper back, even cervical spine issues. This is something that you can start implementing into your everyday routine. So for those who are doing neck cars, spinal cars, whatever cars you may be doing in your day-to-day, this is something you should be also implementing into your everyday. So what you'll need is a yoga mat and some floor space. I highly recommend you find an eraser, these old school erasers that we used in grade school, middle school, high school, a element, or what are they called? Just those little powder supplement packets that you can put in your water. That will do as well. Something that is about ½ inch thick for feedback. Now, what you're gonna do is lie on your back, grab your eraser. For those who have worked with me directly, you know exactly what we're about to get into. This is where I use my finger pads on your spine. But for those who are just doing this at home, grab your eraser or your pad and put it just below the TL junction. For those who don't know where the TL junction is, the thoracic lumbar junction, that's where the rib cage will end. The bottom rib will come around and attach to the spine, just below that, right? And rounding your back to kind of feel exactly where it's at on your spine, and using that as feedback, understanding exactly where that's at, bringing your awareness to that position, and we're going to pretend that the eraser is a scale, and we're going to try and articulate our spine and the joint, the segment that it's on, and we're going to try and round over the eraser, and then we're going to try and make the scale heavier by coming underneath it. What we're not trying to do is just flare up and bear down. We're trying to make as little movement as possible only in that section of our spine to come down on top of it. Find your end, fight for more, and then try and come off of it without getting the pelvis involved, without getting the thoracic spine or neck or head involved, and just creating that new neural connection to try and float that portion of your spine off. Find your end, fight for more, and then coming down and trying to round and make the scale heavier, make the pressure on the eraser heavier without tucking the hips, without moving any other part of the spine. Find your end, fight for more, and then pull up off of it. Find your end, fight for more. And then what you would do is grab the eraser and bring it about 2 vertebrae lower. So you can think 2 inches, roughly 2.5 inches. And again, kind of press into it. Try not to think too much about it. Press into it. You can move your hips, really feel where it's at on your spine. And now relax the body, bring your awareness to that position, and try to press down into the eraser, doing your best not to just tuck the pelvis, right? Trying to use your spinal muscles and the neural connections you do have to try and make the scale heavier on, and then rounding off. Round as much as you can into extension. Find your end, fight for more. Try not to pull your hips back. Trying to have it all come from the spine. And again, pressing down on top of it. And here's the thing, if you're pressing down on top of it, you're having a hard time with this mind-body connection, and all you can do in order to make the weight heavier on the eraser is move your pelvis, and you're trying your absolute best not to move your pelvis, but the only way for you to get into that part of your spine is to couple, or not, I don't want to say compensate, it's just where you're at, but to move your pelvis and move some other parts of your body to get there, that's fine. Work with what you got, but with every single rep, do your absolute best to just gently and with grace and with control round off of it into your full extension around it. Find your end, fight for more. Try not to move the pelvis, try not to move other aspects of your spine, try not to get your neck or head involved. Try and connect with that portion of the spine and drive down into it without getting anything else involved. Find your end, fight for more, and relax. come down one more position. So we're not totally on the pelvis, we're not at the lower, like the complete end of the lumbar, and do your absolute best to, you can tuck your hips here again, tuck your hips, move around, find exactly where it's at in your spine. And again, driving down into it. If you're this low on the lumbar spine, more than likely, of course, the pelvis is going to move a little bit. Find your end, fight for more. Come off, try and round above it. Try and get off the scale, find your end, fight for more. And you get the idea, right? So the challenge here is 3 on the lumbar spine. So TL junction just below that, and then below that, and then below that. And then you're gonna go just above TL junction. So you're gonna do 3 sets of the lumbar spine and then 3 sets of the thoracic spine. So find just above the TL junction, you'll be, so think rib cage, again, right underneath the rib cage, except now we're going just above, hitting the last bottom portion of where the rib cage connects to the lower thoracic, so T10, 11-ish. And again, move around, find it, looking for that feedback. All right, I feel it. Try and drive into it. Try and make the scale heavier just in that area. And this may be a little easier compared to the lumbar spine for some, not for everyone. And then try and pull off of it. Find your end, fight for a little more, back down, make it as heavy as possible, find your end, fight for more, and now do your best to pull off of it without driving your head into the ground. Try and only have it come from the musculature and tissue and connection around the part of the spine that is around the eraser or whatever you may be using. Try not to pull your hips back, try and come off of it, find your end, fight for more, and then back down, rep that out, come up a little bit. So now we're thinking like mid-thoracic, bottom of the scapulas, maybe a little above towards mid-scap, find the eraser, all right? This is where a lot of people should have a decent amount of control. So again, find it, find your end, go into it, fight for more, and then come off of it. Find your end, fight for more. This is more for educational purposes. We're kind of feeling into it on what hinge point training is, how many reps, or not how many reps, but how many points we're targeting, where it's at. Find your end, fight for more, come off, find your end, fight for more. All right, and then move it on up. So we're going upper thoracic, I would say T2-ish, which, so that node at the base of the neck, that hump, is going to be the CT junction. We're going to be about, we'll say like, I don't know, 2 inches below that, 2.5 inches below that. This is going to be difficult for pretty much everyone, right? No matter who you are. So the higher you go in the thoracic spine, the more difficult it becomes. The lower you go in the lumbar spine, the more difficult it'll become for most people, right? It's going to vary from person to person. So here, find the feedback from the eraser and press in. Find your end, fight for more. Try and come off that. Try not to use your head as an anchor point. And if nothing is moving, if you're hardly moving at all, but you're really trying and you're trying to make that neural connection to make it all happen without the coupling or compensation, and things are still coming along for the ride, that's fine. Keep going, keep going. Get heavy into it. Find your end, fight for more. Try and come off of it. As long as there's an attempt and you're trying to create those that neural connection, those neural pathways are being created, and over time it will get easier. Now, when it comes to, go ahead and come on up. So that's 3 on the lumbar spine, 3 on the thoracic spine. You should be doing this every single day if you're someone that lacks mobility in the thoracic or lumbar spine or throughout the entirety of your spine, which is fine and normal. As far as how to go about it, I have another video that is a whole mini series on a follow along. But if you don't have access to that video, you don't know where it is, or you just want to do this at home without the follow along video, what you'll do is at least 1 minute per section, right? So start at the upper lumbar spine, start a timer, go back and forth for a minute, bring it down, back and forth for a minute, bring it down, back and forth for a minute, bop, bop, bop on the thoracic. 6 minutes of hinge point training every single day. Your spine is going to thank you. You're creating new cortical maps, you're creating new mobility and strength throughout the spine, which will help inevitably strengthen your spine and give your brain a better opportunity to move through time and space without setting off the alarm bells for further potential pain in whatever areas you may be experiencing pain in. If you have any questions, guys, feel free to reach out, and I hope this helped.